Good morning, beloveds. Oh, it is gym day. So we went to meet with the trainer and it was good. I almost got to the ab work. Almost. I'm getting better. So, although he did point out to me that my IT bands are really tight, my quads are really tight, my calves are really tight. So I need to be doing those IT stretches more often than I am, which means I'm never doing them. So if I even just start doing them once a day, I'll be... So, all right, it is January 15th. We are halfway through January already. Wow. Okay. It is January 15th. Our title is Be Still. The first quote is, "Be still and know that I am God." And that is Psalm 46:10. The second quote is, "The highest mental practice is to listen to this inner voice and to declare its presence." That is Science of Mind, page 344. Thomas Carlyle wrote, "Do thou thyself but hold thy tongue for one day, and on the morrow how much clearer are thy purposes and duties. What wreck and rubbish have the mute workmen within thee swept away." Oh, give me my hand back. Nope. Oh, okay, hang on. Yes, thank you. Somebody still needs his claws clipped. And he had a hold. Okay. When intrusive noises were shut out. Short of going away on retreat, it is often difficult to shut out noise that intrudes upon us. Indeed, it seems as if our ears are constantly bombarded. When we are not hearing the sounds of day-to-day living, automobiles, jets, television, music, we are often creating our own noise by thoughts that disturb and keep us from quietly looking within ourselves. The directive to be still is one that many people might find disturbing, for being still requires us to face the wreck and rubbish of our minds. Some of us have become so used to maintaining an atmosphere of activity and sound, that the mental discipline of quietly being threatens to reveal our deepest fears. Sometimes we seem to crave distractions in order to avoid our inner world. However, for the person who chooses to pause and become still, there are great blessings. As spiritual beings, we need to create the silence in which God can speak to us. Why not make the choice to let God participate in our lives by giving us the direction we are looking for and the love we long for? Why not choose to open ourselves so that God can do the necessary work through us, the only way God can work? Once we learn to eliminate the static of our minds and begin to listen, we can receive the guidance we seek. Our purposes and duties can become clear, and we can truly know God's powerful presence. I know the perfect presence within me is always ready to direct when I listen to that inner voice. Today, I take time to be still, to feel the power of God at work in my life. I am thankful. And that is J.A. Jean Anderson. Okay. I have a couple of thoughts. The first one being the silent retreat. One of the requirements in ministerial school, and I don't know if it still is, but one of the requirements in ministerial school was a silent retreat. Which is not the easiest thing to do. So when one of my fellow students, they generally task two students to co-create a retreat, and then they could pick a committee of whoever they wanted, or whoever volunteered. And so when they knew that was a requirement, and so they was like, well, why don't we build it into the retreat? So we show up for the retreat at 6. We come in on Friday, and they have some activities for us. We have time to get together, and then they call it an icebreaker, where we played kind of a bingo, and it was a get to know you thing. And then I think at 9:00 that night, that Friday night, they put us into silence. Basically we did treatment into silence. And then we were in silence from Friday night, 9 o'clock Friday night, until about 8 o'clock Sunday morning. And it was interesting because like you have no idea how loud, lunchrooms are, cafeteria rooms are until everybody's quiet. There was another retreat going on, but they respected, because we all wore, our name badges said silent retreat, so that they would know they could talk to us, but that's why we couldn't talk back. How loud lunchrooms are when people are absolutely silent. And it's weird to sit with a group of people and eat food and not talk to each other. And all the other things that you do. And so it was a really interesting experience. Is it one I want to repeat? Not necessarily. But it was also while I was early in ministerial school, and it was probably right around the time of that silent retreat. Cause I think that was in my second year, that I noticed that I was okay being in the house by myself without like the TV on or the radio playing or anything like that. I learned to be alone with my thoughts. Cause up to that point, even if I was like just crashed out and reading on that couch, like I would have the radio on, I would have, or listen to my MP3 player. There was always some sound going. And, so it was really hard to be quiet. And so second year into ministerial school, I kind of went, wait a minute, I'm okay with this. I like the silence. Now, 9 times out of 10, if I'm doing something, I do have noise on in the background. Music helps to, like I still exercise to music because it helps me keep my pace. And I like to watch like the Discovery Channel and the Science Channel. So yesterday I had this big project to do in my house. And so I had the TV on, but I would also pause the TV and go and do other stuff and then just forget to unpause the TV. And then I look up and I'm like, oh, 45 minutes have gone by and I'm in complete silence. And so I learned to be comfortable with myself. Because and it's partly when you have those thoughts that come into your head when you're being quiet and you're like, well, that's weird. That's interesting. Those thoughts can inform you of a lot of things. Now, not all of them are the voice of God. A lot of them are just the nonsense in your head. And it gives you a chance to look at the nonsense in your head and go, where did that come from? That is not useful anymore. I'm going to chuck that in the rubbish bin. You hear other people's voices in your head and you go, that's not helpful anymore. So it gives you a chance to kind of sort out all of the voices in your head and go, wow, I did not know that was in there and I don't need that anymore. So it gives you a chance to do that kind of work. But it also does give you the chance to listen to that still, small, quiet voice, which sometimes can be really loud, by the way. And then you kind of wonder, well, how do I know that that's the voice of God? And the biggest hint that I can give you there is to check, okay, is this ego? Is this my inner critic? Is this my inner guide? Is this God talking to me? By what it says. But if it is at all critical, if it is all demeaning, it's not God. Okay? And it's not your inner guide. It's probably your inner critic, who generally sounds like somebody you love. Yeah. So just, in that way. And then if you are listening to the voice and it is uplifting and positive and helpful, well, that is probably your inner guide. Cause we all have them. We come with an inner critic and we come with an inner guide. If you want to know if it's God talking to you, then you kind of want to look at, well, what is the voice saying and who does it benefit? All right. Cause that's my benchmark there. It's like, anytime I hear a suggestion in my head, it's like, all right, well, who does it benefit? And then I also want to double check, does it hurt anybody? Because if it hurts absolutely anybody at all, it's not God. It might be your inner guide, because your inner guide might need a little bit of work, but it's not God. If the only person it benefits is you, but it doesn't hurt anybody, that can be God. Just because something benefits you and doesn't benefit anybody else, that doesn't mean it's not God. yes, we want to do the most good we can, but that's really that benchmark. Who does it help? Who does it hurt? If you're listening for the voice of God, all right? Because the voice of God will never tell you to hurt any living thing. So that's my benchmark. Being quiet, walking around in the silence, it's an interesting exercise. I know there's one of my friends who she'll take the weekend. And I remember her doing that because she came to church and she wore one of the little name badges that says I'm in silent retreat. So we could talk to her. She just wasn't going to talk back. And it's useful. And what you might do is just start little, give yourselves 15 minutes where, you turn all the electronics off and you turn, everything, and just listen to the noises that happen around you. You might be surprised at what you hear. Right now, I know it's January, but I think because we're far enough south that we've got birds wintering here. And so there's all kinds of different bird calls. And so that's been really interesting for me to open to go out for a walk and listen to the birds. And that's even what Tom said. I don't know if I want to listen to music today. I might just want to listen to the birds. And I was like, all right, more power to you. I wanted to listen to the music because I wanted to walk. So, but that was really interesting. And one of my favorite sounds in the park is to listen to the squirrels on the pine bark, their claws on the pine bark when they come scrambling down the tree because they know we've got peanuts. It's just a really interesting sound. And if you're focused on everything else, it's not a sound you hear. So, start with 15 minutes. Start with 15 minutes of that silence and work your way up and see. One, you'll hear all of these really amazing sounds of life around you that you hadn't heard before. The wind in the trees. One of my favorite things about being in Colorado was the wind through the aspen trees. There's nothing that sounds quite like that. And I always wanted to record it, but it never sounded quite the same when I would play it back. So it was like, no, you got to be in person for that. To listen to the birds sing, all those really amazing sounds. And then you can listen to the voices, and there's going to be more than one in your head. And you might recognize your mother's voice. You might recognize your father's voice. You might recognize your grandma's voice. You've got all of these voices in your head. And then you can listen to what they're saying and then decide, all right, is this useful? I hear George Carlin in my head occasionally. I hear Reverend Jesse in my head. Or other, people who've said really impressive things. These are the voices that I hear in my head. And then you can listen to what they say and decide, you know what? That's useful. I'm going to keep that. That's not useful. I don't need that anymore. And you can sort out. And then once you get into that, start to edit those voices in your head, I can pretty much guarantee you'll feel better. You'll hear things and you're like, oh, no. And once you're ready to let that go, it's like your mind becomes, a safer place. It becomes a safer place, and a more beautiful place. And you can truly create that refuge in your mind. So I encourage you. The title is Be Still. The mission today, should you choose to accept it, is just start with 15 minutes. 15 minutes, turn all of the artificial noise off, all of the electronic noise off, and listen to the sounds of life. And listen to the thoughts in your head and get to know them again. Get to know them again. And once you start doing that, you'll start to hear you'll start to hear your inner guide, and probably you'll hear ego. And sometimes ego has useful things to say. So don't not listen to ego. Okay. And frequently ego will say things and you're like, okay, I got the information. Thank you, ego. So don't discount ego. occasionally has useful things to say. Sometimes what you have to do is take the information and then go and do what you need to do with the information. Not necessarily what ego wants you to do. And then I eventually, maybe sooner than you think, you'll start to hear the voice of God. It's not reserved for the mystics. It is not reserved for the high and holy. Absolutely anybody has the chance to hear the voice of God. They just got to be willing to be still and listen. All right, so that is the mission today, should we choose to accept it. The second mission, or activity or spiritual practice, because it is to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself. And believe it or not, being still, being quiet, shutting all that noise off is absolutely a very compassionate thing that you can do for yourself. Sometimes I think we forget how we are bombarded with noise. Lately the news has just been more than I can bear. So I'm not like, it's like, okay, this is when the weather's on. I'm going to turn it on for that. And that's it. And then I'm going to change the channel or turn it back off. Cause I just can't, so silence can be the most loving, kind, and compassionate thing you can do for yourself. And there's another kind of silence. If you're working on a new work, then you can be silent about that new work. You don't have to tell everybody. Tell the people that you know that will support you and have resources for you. But if you've got people, even especially people in your life that you love, that love you, who might go, I don't think that's a good idea. You don't have to tell them. There's another place that you can be silent. Okay. I was 3/4 of the way through ministerial school before my parents knew. So, because I didn't want them to try and talk me out of it. And I told the people that I knew would support me. So, I still have this beautiful little angel. She sits on my bathroom counter, and I have her in there because I brush my teeth in there twice a day. And, that Ruth gave me when I went to ministerial school. She said, so you'll always have an angel looking out for you. She had been in my living room on my mantelpiece while I studied, but then I moved her into the bathroom, after I got out of school so that I could see her every day. So, there's another place that you can be silent, and it absolutely is one of the most loving, kind, and compassionate things you can do for yourself. All right. But that can also look like taking a deep breath before you speak. That looks like silence. That can look like taking a nap. Also silence. Taking a walk. I'm a big believer in music when I walk. So, but you can also take a silent walk and listen to the birds sing. But it also looks like eating dessert first. Okay. That's kind of that I've landed on that as my motto for this year. Eat dessert first. What it means is make room for joy. Don't save the good stuff. That is also loving, kind, and compassionate. Okay. So self-care, make room for joy. Absolutely. That is absolutely spiritual practice. And it is about, if you do it every day, you're going to create that habit. You're going to create that default setting. You're going to create that, first response. You are your own best test subject, but more importantly, you deserve your own love. You deserve your own kindness. You deserve your own compassion, and your head deserves to be a safe place. Okay. Moving into, I guess do something to engage your mind and your body. Drink plenty of water. Hydration is super important. It's more important in the winter. Like during the summer when we're all hot and sweaty, we think to drink more water. But in the winter, when the heat's running all the time, we get dehydrated. We don't think about it. So drink plenty of water. You can warm it up and add tea leaves or coffee or hot chocolate, whatever. But drink plenty of water. And then get that early in your day bright light. There was this one point, and of course it was as I was turning, so I was driving. I couldn't do anything about it. Where I saw the sun rays filtering through the clouds. One of my favorite things ever. So, early in your day, bright light, it resets those, circadian rhythms, resets all those hormones. You will have more energy during the day. You will sleep better at night. Trust me. It's science. You can look it up. All right. Social media part. Here's where I remind you that we are Creative Life Spiritual Center, Creative Life Spark. I am the running Rev Ryan on the social medias that I am on. Please feel free to check into all of that. We have great content. all the time. There's hundreds of videos, literally, that you can go and look for, on all of the social, definitely on Facebook and YouTube. And then I would suggest, there were words and now they're gone. If you want to know what's going on with the center, email info@creativelife.org. Okay. That will get you on the constant contact, and those hot links are hot. It says click here now. It'll either take you right to the information you want or to the person that will get you the information, that'll help you get the information. So please avail yourself of that. There's all kinds of great content in the constant contact. Rita, what was that? She startled at the box. The box didn't move. She's just being weird. All right. Life with cats, right? You know what? I forgot the words of Ernest Holmes. Open the windows of your soul. Allow the breath of heaven to remind you you do live in heaven right here, right now. It's all around us all the time. All right? And being still is part of that. Learning to be safe in your own head is part of that. But you can also take the words of Emma, after the words of Emma, look for the good and praise it. Heaven is a state of mind. Heaven is a state of consciousness. Once you get there once, it gets easier to get there again and again and again. So it's a practice. And it is, you come pre-installed with it. You come pre-installed with the Christ consciousness, which helps you get to heaven. And the password's love. All right. So look for the good and praise it. I've already done the social media part, so I'm on to the encouraging you to have a great day, a wonderful day, an amazing day, a wonder-filled day, an awesome day, a Sunday, a sunny day, a get stuff done day, or a take a rest day. Whatever it is that you need to do today. A take care of business day. A good day. And if that is too much pressure, simply have a day, because you are enough just as you are. You are a beloved child of God in whom God is well pleased and well represented. Always. Always. Okay? You are a divine spark. You are a brilliant light. You are God in action. You are spirit in motion. You are a godling. Absolutely. That is who you are. That is who I know you to be. And I encourage you to know yourself that way as well. All right? I have faith. So, it's Sunday. At least this year. So we will have an amazing service on Facebook Live for you at 11 a.m. And then Reverend David will be on Facebook Live around 5 p.m. And I will be back with you at 9 a.m. So take care of yourself. Know that you are loved. And I will see you next time.